student success. Welcome to week 1 of spring semester. I just want to start off by saying if you have not watched the welcome videos, whether mine or from eStark State, go ahead and pause this video and go back to those so that you can get acclimated to the course first. I did send the link via an email I sent out before the course started, or you could access it right here under the Start Here section. If you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see the welcome video right there. So I wanted to make sure that you do that first because that allows you to kind of get to know a little bit about how the course is set up. Or there is the eStark State version right down here, which is a little shorter. Mine goes into a little bit more detail, but I do recommend you watching those before you jump into week 1. So that you kind of know a little bit more about how to navigate the course. So for the first couple of weeks, I'll just remind you in the Start Here section, this is where you're going to find the master syllabus. Again, as a reminder, it says Fall 21, but it's the Fall 21 and Spring 22 master. It's really general. And then as you scroll down, the Spring 22 course syllabus, that is very specific to us right now in this course. And as I said in my welcome video, there's a couple sections of you combined together. So that's why you're going to see more than just a normal amount of students within all the discussion boards and so on. Also in this Start Here section, there's a welcome, like little intro about myself, and then some other links and resources that you may need early on in the semester, or if you need them throughout the rest of the semester, you know where to find them as you need to kind of navigate back toward this area. So as the weeks progress, you may find yourself needing the Start Here section less and less. As another reminder, you have the announcements area. So you can see when you click in here, I already have the announcements loaded so that you can see in week 1, they will open up kind of periodically every day or every couple of days. Anytime I send an announcement, I will also send that same announcement as a course message. Now, mind you, most of the time when these are coming across, every single person is getting these. So even if you finished your week's work already, and you get an individual message and it says week 1 is closing, it's because everyone gets those messages. Now, I do send individual messages most weeks after you finish your week's work just to say, hey, you're all done, you're caught up, especially the first several weeks, just to let you know you're on the right track. Also, you have the course calendar here that allows you to see when assignments are due. Of course, that information is also in your syllabus and in the weekly videos and announcements and folders. And then you have your access to your grades at all times. So those are just some beginning of the semester information that you want to make sure you're aware of. In the lessons area, you have your textbook access. That's the link that's going to get you right into your textbook. The textbook is embedded in every single week, so you have multiple places to access it. Required syllabus quiz. So before you can even access week 1, you need to make sure you take this syllabus quiz and get a 100% if you take it, and you get anything under 100%, you're not going to be able to access week 1. So make sure that you can watch this video first, or you can pause this video now and then get into the syllabus quiz, but you will not be able to see week 1 until you take and pass this syllabus quiz with 100%. Inside the student services assignment, as I mentioned in my welcome video, this is due at the end of week 16, which seems like you have plenty of time, but unfortunately, as I have learned many semesters in a row now, students often wait to the last minute and they don't get a registration done in time for this. So your student services assignment, I'm recording this video very early in the month, about January 3rd. So when you get into MyStark State under academic support, as of right now, it still has the fall semester schedule. By the time you view this video, you will have the spring semester schedule on here. You'll be able to see January, February, and so on. What you'll want to do is you'll look through all of the offerings from January through early May to see what fits your schedule. There are days and evenings, registration available for different workshops. They're all going to be online through Zoom, and you will register for them via Handshake. So there are also in your week 1, I'll just show you real quickly, in your week 1 assignment folder, there's a PDF that walks you through how to register for Handshake. It's easy to just have it up, registration done now so that when this schedule is uploaded, you can just register for the workshop and not necessarily have to register for Handshake and the workshop. So go ahead and register for Handshake early on so that when it comes time for you to register for a workshop, you can do so a little bit more with ease there. All right, some other things I wanted to just draw your attention to real quickly before we jump into week 1. You have the student lounge and the muddy point. These will be here all semester long. The student lounge is where you can go in and just introduce yourself real informally. Tell us about like a good movie you've seen recently, a good restaurant in the area. And then the muddy point is where you will ask questions. Anyone can answer or see these questions. So it's not necessarily directed just to me. Although I can sometimes jump in there and answer the questions. So if you feel like you know the answer to someone's question, go ahead and respond in there. If you have an individual question about a grade or something like that, please don't post it in the muddy point. Send me a direct message. All right. So from here, we're going to go ahead and get into week 1. So week 1 runs from Tuesday, January 18th through Sunday, the 23rd. So we're going to go ahead and click in, and all the weeks are going to be set up just like this. It's going to give you an overview, the items that you're going to read and review, and the assignments that you're going to complete. So this week, you're really completing 2 assignments. That handshake registration is something you want to get done soon, but it's not graded. So you have 2 graded assignments this week. The materials are what's going to help you complete these assignments. So when we click in the materials folder, we have a link to the textbook. It's going to go right to chapter 1. You can see right there. And then we have some chapter 9 slides, which open up right here. These are 47. You know, I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to go through all these because it's a lot of information. But what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to more walk through the chapter and then just kind of let you know like the slides are here to support it. Other times I might use the slides more than I use the chapter. So it just kind of depends. So I will just say right now, go ahead and, you know, kind of skim through these slides. I know it's just a lot. 47 slides is a lot. But I do, you know, just kind of recommend just going through and seeing what catches your attention. And I'm going to kind of support this throughout the entire semester. Not every one of you is in the same place in your academic career. Some of you are CCP students, which means you're still high school students. Some of you just graduated in 2021. Some of you have been out of school for several years or maybe longer. So you're all at different spots. And so things that you need might vary based on where you are in your life and your academic kind of path right now. So I want you to make sure that when we go through these chapters, you really hone in on what is important to you. And so that's why, well, as I kind of scroll through here, you may see some things that catch your attention, like maybe when they talked about what a traditional student is versus like different kind of returning students. Or maybe you've had some struggles with student success tips, just what a successful student looks like. Or maybe you need to look about the learning cycle. So again, I really want you to focus and spend time on the sections of each chapter that apply to you or that you need to hone and focus in on the most. Okay, so I will say that about these slides in terms of just the length. Really pay attention to what is most helpful to you. So again, for our purpose, I'm going to go through and talk about kind of the concepts as they are discussed in the chapter. And you can navigate the chapters just like this. So chapter 1 talks about your college experience. All chapters will start off with like a quick self-assessment. And so this is going to ask you like, where are you now? How do you believe, you know, yes, unsure, or no with each of these statements? Where do you want to go? What are your goals as it relates to kind of your time as a student here at Stark State and maybe beyond? And then the goals that this chapter will focus on. So it starts off talking about, you know, welcoming to college. You know, why are you here? Hopefully you have a motivation, you have a reason that you're here, you have kind of the big picture in the back of your mind. And here are some other benefits that people go to college for. Obviously, people go to college to get a better job, make a better salary, support their children or their family or whatever it might be. But there are other benefits to college that sometimes we don't necessarily even think about. You're going to kind of enrich your social life, enrich the kind of people that you encounter. You're going to be learning skills that are going to apply in multiple situations. You are a more involved and informed citizen in general. And so all of those things come along with the benefits of being a college student, other than the kind of most obvious ones with the job and the career and so on. So this whole first chapter, and really all the chapters of our textbook, talk about kind of where you are and what you need to succeed. I mean, this is called student success, right? So the next section goes into who are you? Kind of making sure that you know what your values are, knowing the difference between high school and college, especially if you're still still a high school student or fresh out of high school, knowing what your plan is. I really do I ask you that you look at this activity here because it asks you, how long do you anticipate being in college? I literally just had a student that I had last semester text me just the other day and say, here's my plan. I want to graduate by 2024. What do I need to do that? And so we kind of had a quick conversation about with some goals and how many classes she needed to take each semester. And so that's important to know ahead of time. You can kind of have a rough idea of, okay, if I want to graduate by 2026, and that's with my 2-year degree, or I want to be in my 4-year university if you're transferring or if you're continuing on by a certain date, how many classes you're going to have to take every semester, what's going to be challenging for you to get through that. When you come across obstacles, how are you going to face those? So all of those are things that you should have kind of incorporated into your plan. Okay? Something else you need to think about are your values. So what are your values? What makes you who you are? What makes you feel good? And so there's a little value assessment. And this also kind of will connect to your career path as well. You'll see that if your values align with your career, it's going to lead to overall better career satisfaction than if your values and your career do not align. For instance, I had a student in the past say she wants to be a nurse, but she doesn't like people. Okay, those values and that career do not align. And so there's probably not going to be a lot of career satisfaction in that situation. So knowing your values is an important part of either validating your career choice or making the career choice to begin with. So looking at your values is important. Also thinking about your major and your career. A lot of you in here already have your major decided. Awesome. Some of you may be undecided. And so you want to make sure that you are making that decision very thoroughly because it is a really important one. It's going to kind of direct how much time and attention you spend on a certain area for the next several years. And so part of knowing your career choice is your values, but also your interests, your personality, things like that. So there are lots of different personality assessments and different kind of inventories, and this talks about that here, like Myers-Briggs. So I would recommend kind of looking for that. If you are interested, we do have, and we're going to talk about this throughout the entire semester, but we have here on campus, our career services area. And this is one of the departments on campus that you've already paid for with your tuition. They can do these kind of things. They have tools and resources that you can take personality assessments and you can see based on your personality and your values, what careers line up. If you haven't made that decision yet, or are you in the right field? Should you be switching your majors, or are you unhappy? So this is a great office, and we'll talk about them more as the semester progresses, but I like to plug them early on. Also, things that go into your decision making is your past educational experiences. So have you recently been in school? Have you had a large break? And so all of that's going to kind of play into your experience. Now, it's also important to really make sure you know the difference between high school and college. For a lot of you, this is your first experience with an educational setting since you've left high school, no matter how long ago that was. Some of you may have been in college previously and you're back for, a different degree, or you're back for a second attempt, or whatever it might be. So you want to make sure that you are recognizing the differences not only between high school and college, but also maybe your previous college experience to what you're going to experience now. I often have students say, they went to whatever university, Akron or Kent or wherever, and it didn't go well there for a multitude of reasons. And so now they're here at Stark State, and you should expect your experience to be different. And so kind of just making sure that you're setting yourself up for realistic expectations, but also knowing kind of possibly what to expect. So this is what this section goes into detail about. Thinking about yourself as a student as well is important. And this, you can kind of see there's some hyperlinked things. It's going to give you previews about what you're going to talk about in future chapters. So making sure you know about who you are as a student and what the things, kind of what you need to be able to be successful. Part of that is being self-managed, self-dedicated, self-motivated, especially with an online class. Okay, so in an online class, you really have to be on top of things because you don't have someone right there in front of you. Yes, I upload weekly videos, but sometimes, not having me right there is kind of a way for people to oh, okay, I'll get that done later. I'll get that done later. And then it gets pushed and pushed and pushed, and online classes kind of fall to the back burner, if you will. So it's really important to have that self-motivation and that self-direction with online classes. And so this talks a little bit about self-management. The next section talks about different types of students. This kind of goes into what I was referring to, like traditional students versus like returning or non-traditional students or ELL students. And so this section really goes into those different types of students, if you will. So this is helpful if you need to kind of see like, where do you fit in? Are you what's called a traditional student? Like you are close to being out of high school? Are you a non-traditional? Are you a little bit of an older, more experienced students? And so this really goes into those different categories, if you will. Everyone is a commuter student unless you're taking all online classes, because we don't have dormitories here on campus. If you're a first generation student, you did not have a parent who graduated from a 4-year institution. There presents different obstacles for that. I will tell you that we have something on campus for first generation students in particular. If you are interested, I'll just show you again, info for current students. Down here, we have what's called TRIO, and these are students who, there's like an income piece to it, but often like the first generation students, if your parents didn't go or graduate from a college, think about it, you may not know the ins and outs of the college experience as well as someone whose parents did go to a college, and that's by no one's fault. So this TRIO program is there to help support students like that, really to get you to graduation, to help you navigate that. So we also have kind of international students, students with different abilities, students who are working full-time or part-time, and there's a lot of discussion about that throughout a couple of chapters about, the ideal balance. A lot of research will say ideally when you're going to school, you should be working around 20 hours a week. I know that's not always practical, right? Sometimes we need to work more, sometimes we need to work less. But they say that for time management purposes and motivation purposes, a nice spot to be in is around 20 hours because you have to balance that way. If you're working less than that, you might procrastinate more. If you're working more than that, you might be a little bit more overwhelmed. And that's not a blanket statement by any means, because we all know our limits. And some of us, to support ourselves, have to work more than 20 hours. So the key is just kind of knowing yourself, knowing your needs, knowing, especially if you have other obligations outside of school and work, knowing how you can manage your time with that. Okay, so this goes into, again, those profile of successful students, and this links to different chapters. So you can kind of look and see what areas here do you already do well, what areas do you need to work on, and it links you to those chapters, which we will talk about eventually, but you can get kind of like a head start on it if you want to. The next section talks about how you learn, so different learning styles, and so this talks about in particular the learning cycle, 4 steps to learning: preparing, absorbing, capturing, and reviewing. So if you've been out of the academic environment for a while, or even if you haven't, this is a nice refresher. What can you be doing in and out of class to make sure that you're getting the most out of your time and energy? So making sure that you take time to prepare to learn. You have the materials, you allow yourself enough time and energy to get to class or to, sit in front of your device. You want to make sure that you are absorbing. How are you taking in the information? Are you taking notes? Are you recording audio so that you can go back and re-listen? How are you capturing that information? Not just kind of taking the notes, but in what way are you taking those notes? What way are you able to review that material? Which leads to the last part. How are you able to kind of synthesize and analyze all that information? Then it goes into what's your learning style. And so I would recommend everyone go to bark-learn.com if you haven't done this already. And it's not a requirement, but I think it's helpful to know early on what your learning preference is. You scroll down a little bit and say, what is your learning preference? You'll close the ad. And then you'll go ahead and go through and it's a series of questions, and it's going to just ask you, like, what would you do in this situation? And click 1, no more than 2, what would you do type situations. And at the very end, you'll hit OK, and it's going to give you results. And it's going to tell you what your learning preference is. It's going to say, you are a audio-visual learner, you're a read-write learner, you're kinesthetic. And if you have taken this before, or you take it and you want to go back, you can always go underneath the questionnaire, and it's going to give you strategies. Like, if you are a visual learner, what could you be doing in or out of the classroom to make sure that you are getting the most of your time and energy. So that's what this section talks about, how you learn. What is your kind of strengths as it comes to learning in an academic environment. Reading is also an important part. We're going to talk about reading situations throughout the semester. I am a developmental reading instructor here on campus, and so I do teach the reading courses. If that's something that you struggle with and you want to kind of get some more information on, feel free to reach out. And so this section talks about like all the ways you need to be active in your reading. You know, you can't just jump into reading. Reading is like writing. You need to be able to approach it like a process. You have to read something and go back and reread it and go back and take notes and then review it. So you're not going to understand something the first time through every single time. And so this section talks about a lot of different kind of important note-taking tips, reviewing tips as it relates to reading. And there'll be a whole chapter revolving just reading, but this is just a little preview. This section talks about listening skills, how important it is to have strong listening skills as a student, as well as your visual. Again, you can kind of see the tie-in with these different learning styles here, and your hands-on, your kinesthetic learning. So all of these go into detail about kind of different preferences, but I really do recommend kind of taking that so you know what your preference is ahead of time, as well as adapting your style sometimes to your instructor's style and kind of seeing how well you can make those vibe together. The next section talks about what is college. You know, here at Stark State, you can anticipate mostly small classes. Anywhere from like 10 to 20 is the usual class size. So just knowing that you're going to be kind of in an environment where you're going to be noticed and you're going to be seen and you're hopefully going to get that attention that you need. You want to make sure you know the difference between the courses you have to take, your electives, how many credits you have to take, and throughout the semester we will go through and talk about where to find this information. And then online courses, obviously, we're in an online course right now, and there's a lot of great options for online courses. There are some classes, honestly, I don't think it's a good fit to take it online, but I think that just depends again on your learning style, what is good for you, and that's why it's important to know who you are as a learner. This also goes into the importance of, being in class, being on time, knowing about the different policies that are on throughout the campus, which goes back to, making sure that you're familiar with the syllabus, because that goes into detail there as well, and different resources. Here on our Stark State homepage, info for current students, this is a great resource because this connects you to lots of different offices on campus that are going to be helpful, such as the digital library, career services, different student clubs, which we will go into more detail with many of these as the semester progresses. So just knowing where to get access to. If you ever have any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to me or post in the Muddy Point, because other students may have great, tips on where to go or who to see in these different offices. And then we're going to start rounding out chapter 1, being successful. So different things to be successful, kind of looking at different, sometimes we have to fail to be a success. We have to make sure that we know when we make mistakes, why we made them, and how to improve upon them. How should we view our grades? Are we studying to get a grade? Are we studying to learn? And so we want to make sure that we're paying attention to GPA, but not overstressing. Got to find that good balance there, but also knowing if there's a GPA requirement with your major. That's important to know. So this goes into calculating your GPA and information on that. And then just some general success tips in your first year. So again, I encourage you to take time out on any of those sections that you feel like you need to spend a little bit more time on because it's beneficial for where you are in your career here. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about your assignments. You have 2 assignments this week. Your first one is your chapter 1 discussion. So there are 2 parts to this. I will say that it says in here Wednesday, your original response for week 1 attendance is due Wednesday. Because we start on a Tuesday, it's really awkward. I still grant week 1 attendance as long as you post by Thursday, but this is the only time, because throughout the rest of the semester, you need to make sure you're posting your original response by Wednesdays, okay? So there's 2 parts. Part 1, introduce yourself and discuss your major or certification so you can get to know your classmates. So if you're getting a certificate, you can talk about that or your major. So that's part 1, just real quick. My name is, this is what I'm working on. Part 2, it says select 4 of the 9 topics listed below. So you can see there are 9 here. You're going to choose just 4 of them. So let's just say for sake of this, I'm going to choose the first 4. It says to complete each of the 2 statements next to the topic. So if I choose attitude, my most negative attitude toward college is, I need to explain it. How am I going to be more positive? I need to explain it. So whatever 4 you choose, you need to respond to both prompts inside that topic, but only 4 of the 9. And this is an example of the post underneath, as well as the fact that you have to respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. And it's right up here, respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. And a response is not just, good job, I agree, nice post. That's not a response. That's a really simple comment. A response is really going into like a couple sentences, or, you know, telling why you agree or why you disagree, you know, having that discourse like you would with someone inside the actual classroom. To post, you would click right up here. You're going to hit create thread. It's going to repeat this for you, so you have it right there. And then for subject, you can just put your name or chapter 1 discussion, whatever you want to label it. And then you're going to respond right here. Now, if you prefer to put it in a Microsoft Word document first and then copy and paste it over in there, you can certainly do that, whatever is most comfortable for you. Then you'll hit submit. And then once you hit submit, you'll be able to see everyone else's, and you can click on someone else and respond to their post. Okay, so you want to make sure that you are posting your original response in the chapter 1 discussion by Wednesday, Thursday at the latest. I'll still give you Thursday to get week 1 attendance. If you respond after Thursday, you can still get points for the chapter 1 discussion, but you're going to get 50% attendance. Obviously, if you don't post at all, you get 0. Posting in the student lounge or the muddy point does not count towards your week 1 attendance. Okay, and then respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. Your second and last assignment for this week is your Title IX training and quiz. Back in week 1 materials, you could see there was a Title IX PDF. If you wanted to review that ahead of time, you are certainly welcome to. It's rather quick. In the actual assignment area, when you're ready to take the the Title IX training, it's going to open up into like a different window, and it's going to talk to you, and you're going to click next.
This presentation is to
And you're going to go through, and you're going to make sure that you answer all the questions. And on the very last slide, you'll hit submit, and that is automatically graded. So what I will see eventually is when you have completed your assignment, I should be able to go into the gradebook and it'll have your grade there. If it says in progress, it might say that for about an hour or so, but then it'll copy over. But on, the next day, if it still says in progress, that means I can't see it either. So you want to make sure that very last slide runs all the way to the end and you hit submit. Your Title IX is due by Sunday as well. All right, so as a quick recap, not every week, I know this week's lecture was a little long. Not every week will be this long. But for week 1, you want to make sure you review the chapter 1, either, the textbook itself, the slides, whatever you feel like is going to be helpful to you. And then for assignments, you're going to post your original response in the chapter 1 discussion by Wednesday, Thursday at the latest, since our week doesn't start till Tuesday. Respond to 2 classmates by Sunday for the rest of those points, and then your Title IX training quiz. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I hope everyone has a great first week of the semester. Bye.